world. This specific presentation is going to focus on the new standard of physical activity related to finding fitness in nature. So looking at outdoor and recreational opportunities that are available both during and post COVID-19. My name is Dr. Adam Keath. I am an assistant professor of physical education, teacher education at Wintrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina in the United States. I teach the elementary methods courses at Wintrop, as well as the outdoor and adventure education course as part of our physical education, teacher education curriculum. My research interests lie in children's physical activity, specifically classroom-based physical activity interventions, and then technology use in the physical education setting. You can reach me via my email, keitha@winthrop.edu, or you can find me on Twitter at AdamKeath. So this presentation is going to take a look back at what's going on with COVID and how we got to where we are, specifically looking at some of the safety things that we've gone through during the pandemic, some of the confusion with the science, and where we are with that now. Then we're going to take a look at how interest in outdoor sports has grown during this time, as well as access interest. We'll take a look back at some of the historic trends, so what happened in previous pandemics related to outdoor recreation opportunities, and then as health and physical education professionals, what occurred during this time and what can we do moving forward to kind of maximize physical activity opportunities. I'll take a look at the adventure education model and how that can be used to frame outdoor recreation opportunities moving forward, and then we'll take a look at some resources related to outdoor and adventure education. So where are we now and how did we get to where we are now? Obviously, this pandemic knocked a lot of people off their feet and we didn't really know where we were going. Some of the initial science, especially in the United States through the CDC, was contradictory and confusing and caused some significant issues that may have increased transmission in the United States. Early on, guidance suggested that wearing a mask did not help prevent the spread of COVID. Initially, the CDC kind of released that information in an effort to conserve resources for health professionals so that we didn't see a run on masks and PPE equipment for health professionals. So the guidance then shifted to, yes, we all need to wear masks. Initially, we didn't know what types of outdoor recreation were safe. Was running without a mask or with a mask safe, or how did we need to do outdoor recreation? Was it safe to be on a trail and pass another person? So a lot of the United States, especially early on, went into full lockdown mode as we tried to figure out what was safe, what activities were safe we could do, what we couldn't do. As you can see on some of these graphs, these are worldwide trends related to physical activity. If you look country to country, you can see some significant dips in physical activity related to steps and daily steps. We see that major drop-off about the time most of the lockdowns begin to occur across the globe. Some of the countries have recovered. Some countries are still, in semi-lockdown right now. So we don't necessarily have full exposure or access to physical activity opportunities. Initially, we didn't know how that spread was being occurred. So a lot of the national and state parks across the globe shut down to prevent the spread and transmission of the virus in those national and state parks. These shutdowns actually kind of occurred simultaneously with a growth of interest as parks were getting overrun with people who couldn't go to their regular recreation facilities. They couldn't go to fitness centers as those were all shut down. Public health recommendations suggested that in order to stop the spread, we needed to shut down a lot of the physical activity opportunities. What we know now is that we can recreate safely as long as we maintain social distancing opportunities or wear our masks as needed in outdoor spaces to make sure that we're not in a close proximity to others. Luckily, outdoor opportunities offer us that space in the environment to disperse widely and be able to recreate safely in a variety of settings. One thing that we do know that some of these decreases in physical activity are potentially going to be very harmful related to even the fight of COVID-19. We know that increased physical activity improves immune function and immunoresponse, which is critical to fighting COVID-19. We also know that many comorbidities related to COVID-19 are also related to chronic disease in general. So physical inactivity causes obesity, causing cancer, diabetes. All of those are comorbidities to COVID-19. So we want to provide as many recreation opportunities as we can. So as these lockdowns were occurring, something else was happening. Across the globe, interest in outdoor physical activity opportunities was spiking. So the top 4 outdoor physical activities include backpacking, cycling, mountain biking, and hiking as recreation opportunities. And we saw these search terms surge at the initial onset of the virus. So if you're looking at this chart here, this is a term popularity chart related to the all-time search term popularity. We can see many of these terms hit all-time highs during the pandemic. Looking at this timeline, we see on January 9th, the HOA announces COVID in Wuhan. By the 21st, we've confirmed a case in the United States of COVID-19. Wuhan goes under full lockdown on the 23rd, and then the WHO issues a global health emergency on January 31st. From there on, things start to move pretty quickly, as we know, as things began to shut down. By March 11th, the WHO had declared COVID-19 a pandemic, and then by March 19th, we began to see lockdowns in the United States for the first time. Other countries had also began to lock down at this time, so you can see that curve begin growing as lockdowns began. But on March 19th, we really saw an acceleration of this curve and the interest in outdoor recreation activities spiking. What's interesting is you're thinking about this spike occurring at the same time. There's a lot of pulling interests. I think many Americans and many across the globe were daily searching about COVID and how things were affecting, how cases were being affected, and how we were progressing on treatments and those type of efforts. So it's pretty astounding that we were seeing this type of interest growth related to search terms during this period of time. And we see that peak out around mid-May, where many of the countries across the globe are heading into those spring and summer months and looking for outdoor recreation opportunities. Additionally, we see similar trends in access. So where are we able to recreate? Are we able to recreate in our state national parks and opportunities for greenways? So within communities, people are beginning to look and try and find opportunities to recreate outdoors, whether it be a state park, national park, local park, greenway opportunities. Remember when I discussed earlier that initial timeline, we saw that many of these lockdowns had shut down state and national parks at this time for nearly a month in some places over a month. We had these outdoor spaces shut down. So as people were searching for them, a lot of these searches may have been searching for alternatives to their typical national park setting. We didn't know much about the spread, so these lockdowns were kind of necessary to prevent that spike in visitation that we kind of would have expected to see as other recreation opportunities had been slowed or stopped. So this is not the first time this has happened. We've had global pandemics before, and we've also had a similar trend in interest to our outdoor recreation spaces. After the 1918 pandemic, the United States saw record growth in their outdoor recreation spaces, and national park services saw visitation go way, way up. With this pandemic, we have seen very high numbers in visitation, even considering that we had lockdowns for over a month in many spaces. These parks are still seeing not necessarily record numbers, but very high numbers, and maybe breaking records in some parks across the nations and across the world. So we're seeing this interest similar to the interest that we saw back after the 1918 pandemic. So the interest in these outdoor spaces is there, and it's continuing to grow. We don't want to lose that momentum on getting people out and getting them active in those outdoor spaces in a post-COVID-19 world. So as we head into the future and start looking back in the rearview lens, hopefully, as we get to the other side of this pandemic, we have to look at the outdoor spaces as a major opportunity for that. So for health and physical education professionals across the globe, this is new territory. So as we headed into this pandemic, most of our teachers had never taught online or taught a virtual class ever, and now they're having to teach in a content area that doesn't have a well-established model or design for teaching online. Physical education is typically a face-to-face offering, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's very hands-on. We need to be able to participate. You don't have access to equipment that you might need to be able to do a lot of the activities. So teachers are having to make this shift online very quickly. And find ways to provide and monitor physical activities in the home. As we looked at this online shift, we saw teachers shifting maybe from a motor skill development model in favor of a more physical activity-based model where fitness activities ruled the day, and we didn't necessarily do as much motor development instruction or motor instruction within those classes. We saw limited participation in classes across the United States is the only one I kind of have some data on to suggest that we saw massive problems with students even attending synchronized classes. Part of that was internet infrastructure. Part of that is just lack of parent accountability. So those type of things really limited teachers' ability to provide a quality physical education to all students, regardless of that virtual setting. One way that we can combat this is by introducing the outdoor and adventure education model as a tool. Because we're looking at students that won't have access to fitness centers or access to gym equipment or access to maybe the equipment that you need, there are a lot of adventure and education activities that we can teach in this format and expect students to participate in outside of school and prepare students to participate in outside of the school setting. So the adventure education program is a pretty well-established curriculum and model that we can use to focus on four main outcomes. So we can think about fitness training related to the physical fitness competencies that you need to be able to do to be able to perform outdoor recreation activities. Adventure education incorporates expeditions, so hiking trips, backpacking trips, camping trips, rafting. All of those things can engage students in endurance and mental tasks and challenges to engage them and keep them connected to that physical activity through the lifespan. Adventure education is a project-based learning model, so it involves lots of different challenges and skill tasks that students have to pick up. A lot of that is collaborative, so we work together a lot in the adventure education model, working on cooperative activities, working as part of a team, and working on leadership skills within that. In any kind of risk situation, we also want to practice rescue services, so self-rescue, peer rescue, first aid. All of those type of activities can be embedded into that adventure education curriculum, so people have the skills to be safe in that outdoor space, in that outdoor environment during this time. One other tenet that I need to mention about adventure education is it's always a challenge by choice model. The idea is that we bring people to their risk level comfort and then ask them to push themselves a little bit. We don't want any people participating in activities that they feel are too risky or get them into that extreme stretch zone in their relative to their comfort level. An important tenet is that you're challenging yourself at the edge of your risk comfort level. So the basic skills of adventure education, again, it's very cooperative in nature, so having peers or family or other people to participate in these activities are an important component. But part of it is building relationship skills within that group, both personal and interpersonal skills to be able to work with people. So this hits hard on our social emotional learning domain and being able to really reinforce that in the physical education setting. Technical skills, especially related to environmental skills, maybe riding bike, climbing mountains, hiking appropriately, wearing the proper footwear, using proper mechanics, those type of things. Those are important. But another aspect of this is they're very low competency requirements. I don't need to be able to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball to go for a hike, right? I can be able to pick up this task and this activity relatively quickly. And then meta skills, so things like these soft skills related to decision making, leadership, communication, cooperation with peers, and flexibility during this time. These are all important tenets of that adventure education model. So we can use this model to harness interest that's already out there. We've identified that there's a high level of interest in outdoor recreation opportunities nationally and globally right now. We know that high interest is out there, and we can use this model to engage children so that they engage their families. A lot of these searches are not being done by the children, they're being done by the families. And with the children, giving that extra nudge can really increase the opportunity for these activities. We know that self-determination theory features components of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, which we can kind of build on through the adventure education model. We feature that challenge by choice model. We give them low competency level activities that they can be successful and participate in. And it's an element of we're peaking on their interests. They're going for these searches, and these searches are happening online, so tying that back into their interest areas, as well as the comprehensive school physical activity planning model, as a way that we can tie these together and tie those back in with adventure education, because we're using essentially the family here as a conduit to get students active in an outdoor recreation environment. We're providing physical activity both in and outside of school. We're tying this to our physical education curriculum. Outdoor education offers plenty of benefits and ways that we can incorporate cross-curricular education. We can incorporate our staff, and certainly we need to incorporate the community as we're kind of engaging with community resources with our state, local, and national parks. So we can really use this model to tie together a couple of different theoretical components and models to support physical activity in our communities. So in conclusion, we really have an opportunity here to really capitalize on this growth and interest and push students and push families into outdoor recreation opportunities in safe environments by providing them with at least that minimal competency training. As a teacher, if you're looking for resources, Project Adventure is kind of the foundational resource in the United States on adventure education resources. Outdoor Education Australia offers a variety of curricular resources that you can access, as well as activity ideas. There's other activity curriculums out there as well. Knowles National Outdoor Learning Center or School offers some resources. But a quick search of outdoor education will point you in the direction of outdoor resources. Most state and national parks offer curriculums as well. Canada has a variety of outdoor education curriculums that you can access in that area too. We know that our obesity rates and our physical inactivity rates are surging right now. So this is a real opportunity to kind of capitalize and push people into a space where they can be active both during and after the COVID-19 pandemic, to provide students and families with lifetime physical activity opportunities. If you have any questions about this presentation, or you want to reach out to me about establishing some outdoor recreation interventions or opportunities in your community, feel free to email me or reach out on Twitter, and I'll be glad to speak with you. Thank you again for coming to the Korean Society of Wellness's online conference. Have a great day.